legislative session. This meeting is called to order. I would appreciate it if you turn off or silence all of your electronic devices. And if you wish to address the delegation and are not on the agenda, please complete a speaker's card, which are available at the registration table in the lobby. At this time, I'd ask that you rise for the invocation as Jeffrey Smith, Indian River County Clerk of Circuit Court and Comptroller, leads us.
Let us pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you that we're so blessed to be able to meet like this as citizens and organizations and talk to our legislators without repercussion from the government. Lord, we just ask your blessing on this county, on this state, and on this country. We know we're off course. Lord, just give us the wisdom and the vision to see where we've erred and to get us back on course. Lord, I pray that this meeting will be civil, yet accomplish things that excuse me, are needed to be accomplished. And Lord, I continue to ask for prayer for our servicemen and women all around the world and our first responders, especially here locally. Give them protection and thank them for what they do. These things we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing and join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Noting that both members of the delegation are present, we have a quorum. I'm happy to be here with all of you today, and I know Senator Mayfield is as well. I'd like to introduce or recognize the elected officials that have also joined us. Joel Tyson, the mayor of Fellsmere. Thank you, Mr. Tyson. Beth Mitchell, commissioner for the Sebastian Inlet District. Good morning. Jeff Smith, the clerk of court. Good morning, Jeff. And Commissioner O'Brien and Commissioner Zork. Thanks for being here, everybody. And Commissioner Flesher, sorry. Thank you all for being here. Also, at this time, I would like to introduce my team to you, and I'll give Senator Mayfield the same opportunity. Many of you have interacted with Ed Berenborg, who's my legislative aide, and Sharon Stewart, who is our district secretary. Is Sharon in the room? She is in the foyer. So please introduce yourselves if you ever need anything. They are always available, and we try and move as quickly and as efficiently as possible to answer questions that come through our office. Senator Mayfield.
Great, thank you, Chairman Graw. I'd like to introduce my staff. To the right is Patrick Steele. Patrick is the legislative aide. He works out of the Melbourne office. He handles all policy. And Margaret Mitchell is in the back. Margaret is our Indian River County legislative aide, and she handles all of our appropriations. So she may be your favorite person in this room today, so I would make sure I reach out to her. And the third person that we have is Amelia Smith, and Amelia is working out of our Tallahassee office. So those are our staff members. And as most of you know, we have all of Indian River County as our Senate district, as well as about 3/4 of Brevard County. So we have a pretty large area that we cover. Thank you.
And at this time, and in order to keep the meeting running efficiently today, we do have some time limits that are imposed. If anybody needs additional time with either my staff or Senator Mayfield's staff or us individually, please feel free to schedule that with our office. We're happy to accommodate wherever we can. But Mr. Berenborg is going to keep time, and so you will actually hear a timer if you get to the end of your time, and we'd ask that you, complete your thoughts at that moment, please, and try and respect that we do have a time frame that we need to accomplish this meeting in today. So with that being said, first we will hear from some of our governmental entities. And in the interest of time, we would ask that they limit their comments and presentation to 5 minutes. And first, we will hear from Indian River State College, Dr. Ed Massey, the president. Good morning.
Madam Chairman, Senator Mayfield, staff, thank you for the opportunity to come and talk to you. I have spoken to each one of you individually. Unfortunately, you get to hear this several times because the delegation moves around through the Treasure Coast. So I'll be brief this morning and give you a summary. First of all, I want to enforce to you, and you already know this, that the Florida college system is the best college system in the nation based on the number of schools every year that make it to the top 150 schools in the Aspen competition. Half of the 28 colleges are included in that competition, and no other state has that many colleges, so the system is very solid already. It serves 800,000 students across the state of Florida. It is the primary workforce provider and training for companies and businesses across the state of Florida. We work very hard to retain businesses, keep jobs in the state of Florida, as well as build those training programs that will attract businesses to the state of Florida. And the other thing I'd like to stress is 51 to 52% of the university upper division classes are made up of students who graduated from the Florida college system. That's a main reason why what happened last year was so detrimental to not only the Florida college system, but it was detrimental to higher education. We are built on a 2+2 arrangement in the state of Florida. And if you go back in the history of how the universities and the colleges were built, many of the universities started off as upper division schools. They had upper junior, senior classes in graduate level programs. So the Florida college system was just critical in transferring those students to the university at the junior level, them graduating with the baccalaureate and moving on. So still today, 50 to 51% of the juniors and seniors came through the Florida college system. So if you hurt the front door to the university, then that would hurt the whole system. So we hope that what happened last year does not repeat itself this year. We're hoping that does not happen. Briefly, two things I'll mention to you. The overall funding for the Florida college system, all 28 colleges, we don't break it down necessarily into an individual college because we have a formula that will fairly distribute the money to all of our colleges. But it's a total of $286 million, or a portion of whatever money is available that can address these issues. First of all is performance. We are performance-based budgeted. It started out at $10 million, it went to $20 million, it went to $30 million last year, and so it's a $10 million increment inching up. So we would ask this year that $40 million go into performance. Industry certification is really important in the state of Florida. It started several years ago. $5 million was put in it, then $10 million was put in it. We're asking that $4 more million be put into industry certification. That is preparing people with that certification to go to work immediately on a job. Indian River ranked third in the state, and we're not the third largest college in the state in industry certifications last year, and we're very proud of that. $75 million into workforce preparation. What our system has done is go out into the emerging edges of the new workforce of the 21st century. Cybersecurity, biotechnology, advanced computerized manufacturing. And so we asked for $75 million there to expand across the colleges. The Higher Education Coordinating Council has set a goal in the state of Florida for 55% of all working age individuals in the state of Florida should hold a college credential. Now that is a big goal, and that goal has been set. It was set last year. So we're asking $67 million to do our part and being sure that at least 55% of all of the students that come out have a college credential before coming out. And finally, it's getting a little harder for us in terms of faculty members. We have to compete with faculty members with local labor market and larger companies because our faculty have to be on the cutting edge of what we're training so that our students are not behind the 8 ball when they graduate. So $50 million to enhance faculty and to be sure that we retain and bring on new faculty. The second issue has to do with the building I've talked to you about for 4 years now, and it has to do with the Advanced Manufacturing and Skills Building. I have a group of letters here. You can see the size of them. I'll send a copy of them to your office. There are companies throughout this district that need this building to be built because it cannot get trained workers. What's happening when you cannot get a trained worker is you cannot expand your business, and your business therefore will not grow. This building that we're talking about, the Advanced Manufacturing and the Skills Building, will meet this need. We've done two skills gap analysis. We know what the jobs are. We know what the jobs pay. And these jobs will move people to the middle class and build a stronger community altogether. We need $14.8 million more to go with the money that we currently have received to get this building under construction this year. The governor and others are pushing very hard that these projects be completed by the end of next year. So we're sitting on about $7 million right now. It's not enough to get it started, and we're reluctant to get it started if we don't have the balance of money to finish it. So please help us this year get the final $14 million, and we will make you proud by building a great building and meeting the workforce needs better. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Massey.
Question?
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Next, we will hear from Mary Beth McDonald, trustee for Florida Atlantic University.
Good morning. Thank you very much. It's so nice to be here in Indian River County locally. I am Mary Beth McDonald, and I'm a trustee for Florida Atlantic University. Let me start by giving you a quick update on some of the exciting things happening at FAU, and I'm not going to discuss football, although that's very exciting. And I'll follow up with a brief overview of our major 2018 legislative priorities. During the current fiscal year, FAU is slated to receive $19 million in performance funding, and because of the leadership of this legislature, another $6.6 million for programs initially identified in Senate Bill 374. I also want to take a moment and thank you for your commitment to our increasing scholarship and need-based aid. This funding truly makes a difference in the lives of our students and their families. The utilization of the funds FAU is going to receive will continue to guide the university's 2025 strategic plan. This funding will provide us with the flexibility and the support to continue hiring outstanding deans and faculty, investing in student success initiatives, and expanding our graduate and undergraduate research projects. Our academic focus is apparent in the hiring of 6 new deans and 3 research pillar directors over the past 2 years. FAU has brought in academic leaders from Harvard University, the University of Florida, Vanderbilt University, and Dr. Anton Post was one of these recent hires, and he is now leading FAU Harbor Branch. As we look toward 2018, there are 3 main priorities we will be pursuing. The first is securing the remaining funding for our 72,000 square foot Jupiter Research Building. Your support of our life sciences initiative has helped to transform our Jupiter campus. This new facility will assist us as we continue to expand the groundbreaking graduate and undergraduate research taking place on that campus, as well as to increase our enrollment in our honors college. The second is the A.D. Henderson Lab School. I am proud to report that Henderson is now the 4th ranked school in the state of Florida out of 3,333 public and charter schools. And while we continue to challenge conventional wisdom and push the boundaries of public education in the state of Florida, the A.D. Henderson facility is failing. Our educators are transforming lives and putting students on a pathway to success, but the only thing limiting our ability to go further is the facility. Lastly, the expansion of our medical school. As you know, Florida and our nation is facing a significant physician shortage. We are projected to be short over 100,000 physicians by 2030. I am pleased to report that FAU's Charles E. Schmidt College of Medicine graduated its 3rd class of physicians last spring. However, our facilities have limited our school to 256 students, which works out to be 64 students per class. A new 100,000 square foot facility would allow us to increase our class size by over 50% to help meet the needs of our state and our nation. I'd like to conclude my remarks by thanking this delegation for your ongoing support of FAU and your commitment to our goals. in order to make FAU one of the most innovative and productive engines of economic growth in the state of Florida and our nation. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. One question?
Hey, I just have one question, and you may or may not know this answer, but if you could get it back to me. Of the students that's graduated through medical school, do you know how many of those students actually stayed in Florida and was able to secure a residency spot, and how many had to leave the state because they were not able to secure a residency spot in Florida?
I don't have that number regarding the exact number of students that have secured residencies in the state of Florida, because this is our third graduating class. I know that there have been several residencies procured through Harvard and these other, Vanderbilt and everything. I will get that number for you and give you a ring.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we will hear from Bruce Green, Assistant Superintendent, School District of Indian River County.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, Senator Mayfield, staff. Thank you very much. First, I'd like to send apologies from Dr. Rendell, who couldn't be here today. He's actually sitting in on a state panel of other superintendents discussing one of our first legislative priorities, which is shelter operations and reimbursement. So I'm quickly going to cover 6 key legislative priorities that the School Board of Indian River County have adopted for this year. The first one being shelter operations and reimbursements. As you're well aware, the school district operated 6 shelters during Hurricane Irma, a special needs shelter, a pet-friendly shelter, and 4 others to the public. We had administrative staff, custodial staff, food service staff, medical staff, maintenance workers, technology staff, everybody pitching in to help our community. And our initial estimated cost for operating those shelters are around $800,000, with about half of that being labor for those Saturday, Sunday, and Monday shelter operations. So unfortunately, Florida Statute 252.385 directs us to open the public schools with direction from County EOC, but it doesn't provide consistent policies and procedures around the operation, the manning, and the filing for reimbursements. We're actually meeting with FEMA again, working on our 2004 reimbursement of $2.2 million from Francis and Jean that we're still trying to recoup within the school district. So we're asking our legislators to help establish some uniform procedures for all school districts and county commissions regarding shelter operations and reimbursement. Our second issue is class size flexibility, class size amendment flexibility. We know that the constitutional amendment caps class size at 18, 22, and 25 accordingly by grade level. However, choice districts, choice schools, charter schools have the metric for the penalty calculated at school averages. As you know, this year, open enrollment allows students to choose schools throughout the state, any school, based on basically every district being a choice district. So we would ask that the legislator enact legislation or work with the Constitutional Revision Committee to ensure that all districts can utilize the school-wide average metric when calculating the class size amendment requirements. Number 3 is transportation. This is an issue we deal with every year. We have what we call unfunded and underfunded mandates, and transportation is an underfunded mandate. For example, last year we received $3.7 million in revenue just in Fund 7800, which is basic transportation, but we expended $4.8 million, leaving a $1.1 million gap, not including capital investments of buses, maintenance, ESE services such as ESE bus aids that would come out of other funds. So we're asking that the legislator increase the funding for student transportation within school districts. Fourth is teacher recruitment and retention, and being over the Human Resources Department for the School District of Indian River County, I can tell you how difficult it is to attract and retain quality teachers within Florida, and we would ask that any funds that are being used at the state level for retention and recruitment be allocated to school districts so we can best meet our needs at our most critical schools, critical subject areas, critical courses that we need. So we would ask that those funds be reallocated to local school districts so we can meet our individual needs for recruiting high-quality teachers. Number 5 is level funding. Prior to 2000, 10, school districts were allowed to request advance funding of the FEFP. As you are well aware, the FEFP is funded through state and local dollars, and in Indian River County, it's roughly a 70-30 split, with 70% of those funds coming from local funds, which we don't receive until sometime in November. However, our salary and operational costs start July 1st, and then you have things that happen in the first quarter like hurricanes, which we just discussed. So we would ask that the legislatures reenact that language in 1011.66 so that we could access funds in a timely manner to make sure we can operate our schools consistently without having to borrow money. I looked back at a 4 or 5 year period, and the school district of Indian River County had borrowed anywhere from $15 to $30 million on an annual basis to be able to meet those salary needs. And then finally, number 6 is assessment and accountability, and we certainly appreciate all the support we've got, but this is a specific ask to allow school districts, in lieu of the 10th grade FSA English Language Arts assessment, to use nationally recognized, be able to select from nationally recognized assessments such as the SAT or ACT for our 10th grade students. That would ensure all of our students have the opportunity to take a college assessment, entry assessment, would eliminate the 10th grade ELA is the terminal assessment for that subject area. It ends in 10th grade. So we would ask that the legislators allow us to select and have the flexibility to use one of those in lieu of the 10th grade FSA. And I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Green. Do you have any questions? Yeah. Thank you very much. Next, we will hear from Chairman Peter O'Brien of the Indian River County Commission about their legislative priorities.
Good morning, and thank you for being here. And on behalf of the entire Board of County Commissioners, I'd first like to thank both Senator Mayfield and Representative Grawl for all your hard work and efforts up in Tallahassee. We greatly appreciate everything you do on a daily basis for your constituents here, so thank you for that. Our priorities are kind of the same as last year. Obviously, the Indian River Lagoon is one of our major priorities. I don't think I have to go too far into the needs of making sure the lagoon is healthy. And the county, we've already undertaken a study, and we have a ranking of our top 30 priority areas for septic to sewer conversion. So we would just ask your support for any policies that would help support cleaning up and protecting the lagoon, and particularly any, say, matching funding programs for septic to sewer conversion projects, because we're ready to go and we have our priority list. We might be seeing the light at the end of the tunnel here, and certainly Senator Mayfield with the sale of the City of Vero Electric to FP&L. I think we've all worked hard on that. I think we're getting close to the finish line. And if we can just, again, ask your support to continue moving this forward in Tallahassee. And this is a big priority for the county. And so we will certainly be doing everything we can to work with the city and FP&L to make this go forward. So we're happy we're seeing some progress there. The High-Speed Passenger Rail Safety Act. For over the last decade, high-speed rail has been talked about in Florida. All Aboard Florida is certainly not the first, nor will it be the last high-speed rail. And again, we would like to thank Senator Mayfield and Representative Grawl for the legislation you have sponsored. And I can promise to you that our legislative and lobbying team will be working hard to help you and get those bills passed. But we greatly appreciate your support on that and dealing with some of the safety aspects and the financial impacts of the high-speed rail. Beach restoration. I think the last 2 years between Hurricane Matthew and Hurricane Irma, we've seen the importance of our beaches, and of course we all know the tourism value and things like that, but the importance of our beaches to act as a buffer to protect the infrastructure on the barrier island is critical. And over the last several years, the legislature has kind of had a kind of a floating funding structure for beach renourishment and restoration projects, and it's usually in the 25 to 30 million range. We would ask you to try to support a dedicated recurring statutory funding source for beach restoration and renourishment, and also hopefully get it up more in the 50 million a year mark, which is where the demand really is for these projects, and not at the 25 to 30. Texting while driving, this is kind of a new one for the county, but we've been kind of involved with the Doris Schlossberg Fund and things like that, and we think this is important to move forward. There's 41 states that do make texting while driving a primary offense. Currently in Florida, as you know, it's a secondary offense. So we would like your support, if possible, to move forward to bring texting while driving as a primary offense in the state of Florida. And then finally, the big one for us, I think, is going to be short-term vacation rentals. There was a lot of activity last year in Tallahassee regarding this. The way things currently are, local governments cannot regulate the duration or frequency of short-term vacation rentals. So we can't dictate how many times a year somebody can rent their house. We can't dictate how many days they can rent it. And we are perfectly fine with that, because that does allow us to deal with locally the other issues that vacation rentals bring, such as parking and noise and occupation, things like that. So we would be emphatically opposed to any change in that policy. We feel we've been very responsible in how we've dealt with vacation rentals. As a matter of fact, Ms. Lori Killinger, who is a lobbyist for the short-term vacation rental industry, one of the things that she said in a committee meeting up in Tallahassee this summer is, well, we wanted local governments to form a task force and get the industry involved and work through this. And that's exactly what we did. We put together an advisory committee. They met once a month for 7 months. The meetings were televised. There were minutes kept. There was a owner of 4 vacation rentals on the committee. There was a real estate agent who had vacation rentals. So we had a lot of industry representation. As a matter of fact, we were criticized. The public thought that we had too much representation by the industry. But they went through a wide range of options and came together and made a list of recommendations to the P&Z, and we then adopted it from the county. So we think we did the right thing, and so we'd like to have it kept that way. And so please, we're very happy with the status quo on vacation rentals. So thank you. Any questions?
I just have one, and I know one of the concerns that from a statewide level and what we're doing in Indian River County may be okay, may not be okay. But I think the real problem is the regulation. You know, we as a state passed a law that said we were going to regulate them, but we're not regulating them. It's very loose. And so I think part of the bill that Senator Simmons is working on is to put some teeth in the regulation that we passed several years ago. So I would just be careful in what you wish for, because sometimes it may not be exactly what you think you're getting. So that's one of the things that I'm sure you guys are going to follow this bill, because DBPR is not regulating short-term vacation rentals. They say they are. We put it on the books, but they're not regulating them. So I think there's going to be more to this story than what's being surfaced right now. And
with all candor, Senator Mayfield, when we first looked at this, we found out that we had hundreds of short-term vacation rentals that didn't even have a Florida license.
Exactly.
They weren't collecting sales tax. They weren't collecting tourist tax. The only way we could regulate and enforce that was to make them get a local license. And part of that application is they have to show they have their state registration, and they have to show that they have an account with the clerk of court for their tourist tax. And then we can enforce that through the code enforcement. Mm-hmm. Quite honestly, y'all don't have the people in Tallahassee to do anything like that. So we're more than willing to take on that burden for enforcement, but we'd like, to be able to do it through our regulations.
Right. No, and I agree with that. I think you should. But at the state level, there also should be some accountability back to us, because we're the ones that created this issue.
Okay, good. Thank you very much again.
Well, and I'd just like to say thank you to the Commission in general for hosting us today, and your hospitality with both of our offices being on campus. It makes a big difference, I think, to the constituents in this area. And although we don't always agree about everything, I very much appreciate the robust dialogue that we're able to have with our Commission and looking for solutions to all of these issues. And I think to the extent that we can be supportive in any of these areas, Senator Mayfield and I certainly do our best to influence other members of the legislature, even though we're just a small delegation of 2 from here, but certainly mighty. So thank you very much for your support.
We are so excited that you're here with us too. If I may, real quick, Commissioner Susan Adams did join us back there. And then I would like to invite both of you to the grand opening, the ribbon cutting of our Hunter Safety Education Building up at the shooting range. I know Senator Mayfield, you were up there for the skeet and clay opening. Actually, you fired off a few rounds. So hopefully you both come up there and partake again.
I plan to attend this
Great.
Friday, so looking
Thank you.
forward to it. Thank you. Next, we will hear from Kate Kottner on Indian River County legislative concerns.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to, I have two here, so I'm going to try to merge them in a essence of saving time, and hopefully I'll stay within one allotted time. So just to follow up with Commissioner O'Brien's presentation on the county's priorities and how it's important to also talk about home rule. And I know you've heard this word a lot from me and from everyone else, but it is something that we care a lot about, local home rule, and it's under attack by certain members of the Florida legislature right now. While we can't speak to other communities and their decisions, Indian River County takes a lot of pride in being responsible and a fiscally conservative community. And it's just, we also feel that it's just not fair to have a one-size-fits-all set of bills that come our way that punish us for being good actors. So as we move forward, we really just hope that you guys support home rule authority and have kind of preserve our ability to develop and implement community-based solutions for local problems. And we also want to kind of put out there that this is a priority, and that I know some folks last year said that, you know, the appropriations was being kind of traded for, let's say, some of these bills for home rule, and we want to make sure that you guys know you have our full support. Home rule comes first, above appropriations. So, and we thank you for all of your hard work. Speaking of appropriations, we have 3 this year. The first is a programmatic appropriation. It's for beach renourishment funds for Sector 5. Indian River County has submitted all of the proper necessary paperwork to the Department of Environmental Protection for approximately $1,947,000. Let's see, it's $670, I'm missing a number here, in matching funds. This is just, again, normal beach renourishment projects, but it's a large one. There is something that Commissioner O'Brien spoke about, which is that $50 million allocation, reoccurring allocation for beach renourishment funds. And if that is achieved this year, the way it actually was last year as a one-time, I think that our ranking will put us in a favorable position. The second appropriation is a local appropriation here. It's for $840,000 for Phase 2 of the West Wabasso Septic to Sewer project. These funds will be used to construct a gravity sewer system to service 98 parcels in the West Wabasso community. It's estimated that this project will divert approximately 3,224 pounds of total nitrogen and 520 pounds of total phosphorus per year away from a canal which directly leads into the Indian River Lagoon. The third appropriation is for $416,640 in matching funds to purchase generators to operate lift stations at nursing homes, emergency shelters, and kind of elderly communities during emergency power outages. We noticed during the hurricane that one of the most important things is to have your lift stations operating, because otherwise then you have a public health crisis, and then you have raw sewage everywhere. So it's extremely important, and so we're asking for the state to be our partner in that. You also notice that we have at the end of our program a list of concerns. There's 33 this year for the 2008 legislative session. And it's really just to help direct not only our lobby team, but also you guys to understand what matters to us, what's important, and as bills pop up, you know I'll be calling you guys in your office, talking about them. Just some of the highlights of these issues, we're very concerned about legislation that would somehow interfere with our ability to calculate our millage rates. Also, that would interfere with our ability to meet the recycling goal of 75% recycling by the year 2020, and also diverting tourist development tax away from the local community. So I'm here if you have any questions. I stayed within my time.
Senator Mayfield, do you have any questions? I'm good. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will now hear presentations on 2 local bills. First, we will hear the Indian River Farms Water Control District. We will hear from Michael O'Hare. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Welcome home.
Thank you.
I'm a lawyer, and I represent the Indian River Farms Water Control District, which next year will become 100 years old. It was formed in 1919, and it comprises virtually all of the South County of Indian River on the mainland, east of, southern part of it, east of I-95, basically. It consists of 50,000 acres, and in those 50,000 acres, there are hundreds of miles of ditches and canals, weirs, and other structures which are essential to not being up to our hips in water. The Water Control District was created by order of the Circuit Court in 1919, just as was the Fellsmere Water Control District, which is the same age but was renewed last year in life. We're asking for the same thing this year, basically. And I think a good bit of the population is not aware of the fact that there are hundreds of miles of canals and ditches which are essential to flood protection and to the reclamation of the lands that make up the city of Vero Beach and most of Indian River County on these two water control districts. So we urge you to help us continue to stay alive and well and to maintain all of the water control district that protects us all from flood. I'd be happy to take a swing at any questions. I was just a little shaver in 1919, so I can't go back too far. But
Thank you, Mr. O'Hare. Senator Mayfield, do you have any questions? Yeah, we have no questions.
thank you.
Seeing none, thank you. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, do I have a motion for the delegation to support this local bill?
I make a motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Oh, aye. Sorry, I need to vote too. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. O'Hare. Next, we will hear from the Sebastian Inlet Tax District, Terry Lewis.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm Terry Lewis with the law firm of Lewis, Longman & Walker. We are special counsel to the Sebastian Inlet District. With me this morning is one of our commissioners, Beth Mitchell, and our executive director, Marty Smithson. Sebastian Inlet District was also created in 1919, so it's going on 100 years old. The special act that created them is somewhat vague when it comes to security and maintenance measures who has them. And we have a variety of agencies, including Sebastian, the Department of Environmental Protection, Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, all have interest in this area. Ours primarily is to maintain the inlet and the jetties, the infrastructure that's there, keep them secure, keep them in good shape, and coordinate with the other agencies because recreation is an important secondary activity around the inlet. The district is requesting legislation, which we have worked on with Representative Grawl, that makes clear whose responsibility it is for security, for the safety, and operation of the district. That's really it in a nutshell. And again, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Do you have any questions, Senator Mayfield?
No, this is, we had the same presentation in the Bavard delegation meeting
Right.
because this is a joint Bavard Indian River County issue. So
Right.
just as an FYI, we did pass it in the Bavard delegation meeting
Okay.
a couple of months ago.
Thank you. Is there any public comment? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion for the delegation to support this local bill?
So moved.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very
Senator.
much.
Okay.
Next, we will move on to the business and nonprofit presentations. Now we will hear from, in the interest of time, again, we ask that you limit your presentation to 3 minutes. Speaking first, we will hear from Mr. Mancuso, Advocate for Special Needs Individuals.
Thank you, Senator Mayfield, Representative Grohl. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak here today. As a parent advocate for the special needs individuals, the many challenges and obstacles faced by special needs individuals is very hard to articulate. However, there is one challenge that all of them face, and this must be addressed. And that is the end of the life scenario of elderly care providers. Currently, foster home placement for special needs individuals seems to be the solution. Unfortunately, it is a limited solution. Foster homes are difficult to find even for mainstream individuals. And the idea of having relatives and friends take in special needs individuals is short-sighted. In fact, the majority of special needs families only have one primary caregiver and no support structure. What is also not mentioned is that these individuals will lose their waiver support when they enter a foster home. The concept is that these individuals will be able in later life to become self-supporting through assisted living and gainful employment. It is a noble concept. But even today, according to disabilityplanningdata.com, over 56% of disabled individuals between the ages of 21 and 64 are not even employed in our counties of Indian River County and Okeechobee. Can you imagine the statistical data for those who are classified severe profound and unable to live on their own or become employable? Their only option may be a planned group home. If not, then they may face a life crisis and be shuttled to whatever home is available or a nursing home and ultimately forgotten. The state considers group homes a form of institution, but today's society can easily distinguish the difference between a group home and an institution. If not, wouldn't retirement communities be a form of an institution? Yet the state continues to hold back funding at the 2008 funding rate to providers who also offer these group homes. The funding is insufficient to maintain the services needed to continue to keep providers in business. In the last 2 years, over 30% of the providers in the state of Florida have closed, and the future looks bleak. In these 2 years, the state has offered 3% increases, which is still 11% below the funding rate. And that does not account for inflation over the past 14 years. What is worse is that those 3% increases were only good for the respective years and did not carry over into the next year. That is why, once again, we are asking for the renewal of the 3% funding increase. In conclusion, an individual speaking on behalf of a government agency said to me something that only heightens my concern. They said, all we can do is hope that these children die before we do. That should never, ever be considered a solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your work on this issue, and know that this is an important issue for me. We have a special needs member of our family, and it is a priority in my work on the Healthcare Appropriations Committee too, to continue to bring acknowledgement and hopefully additional funding and the resources to this area. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Benacusto, you have been an advocate for this group for many, many, many years, and you are a true warrior for them. And I appreciate the work that you've done, especially with the school district.
And thank you for all your support. Very, very much appreciated. Thank you.
Next, we will hear from the Tobacco Free Partnership, facilitated by Quit Doc Foundation. We have SWAT students. I have Kayla Hirschberger and Genevieve Presti. Good morning, Ms. Spurlock.
Good morning, Senator Mayfield, Representative Grahl. I'm here today only to introduce our students from SWAT, Students Working Against Tobacco. SWAT is Tobacco Prevention's youth advocacy group that promotes leadership and community involvement, empowering young people to work towards a tobacco-free future. I have here with me Kayla Hirschberger, who's the president, Genevieve Presti, who's vice president, and Anna Woods, members of the Sebastian River Middle School, SWAT. Kayla.
Hello, my name is Kayla Hirschberger. We mainly focus on people who are not smokers to make them aware of the harm tobacco has on their health. I'm president of my school's SWAT club, and SWAT has made me even more passionate about standing up for a healthy, tobacco-free world. Through my club and my passion, I've done more than I could ever have imagined doing. I was able to inform my family about the harm tobacco has on them and got 3 family members to become completely tobacco-free, which includes my grandma, who used smoke to cigarettes, and along with my grandpa and stepdad, who used smokeless tobacco. Statistics show that each day in the United States, more than 3,200 youth and young adults become daily cigarette smokers. An additional 2,100 youth and young adults smoke their first cigarette each day. These statistics is what drives me to continue to participate in SWAT and all that it does for our community. While I've always had an interest in eliminating tobacco from the people around me, SWAT has helped inspire me to spread into the whole community and reach as many people as I possibly can. Other statistics show that smoking tobacco has decreased, but electronic smoking has increased, leaving us with a whole new goal to accomplish. I plan to continue to work hard towards this goal and other ones, and hope all of you will help in this fight to eliminate tobacco. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Genevieve. My name is Genevieve Presti, and I'm the vice president of the SWAT club at Sebastian River Middle School. In this club, we are able to get the message across to all people, young and old, in a way where it doesn't make people feel guilty, but it makes them want to quit smoking. We would do so by maybe informing smokers that only 20% of adults smoke, or maybe the fact that tobacco industries target young people, and as a result, 90% of smokers begin before the age of 18. Not only does the SWAT club learn about tobacco and educate others, but there is also life lessons involved, like what to do in specific situations or ways to get the word across rather than what most kids think the way to get the word across. For instance, some kids take a more rude approach. This club can also help with personal problems, which means how to get family members to quit. As you may know, some kids can be very emotional when it comes to smoking in the family. This club has helped me as a kid because it makes me feel like I have the power to change the world, and kinda I do. All of the kids seem to love it and feel like in this club they can leave all of the stresses and worries behind at the door. Overall, SWAT has by far been the best club I've been in.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions?
No, thank you. I think you may have people that may be able to replace you here soon.
I hope so.
But I want to congratulate you guys for being involved in this. This is where it really starts. It starts with the young people, and the peer pressure is very strong, and it's nice to see peer pressure from a positive side to let young people know how important it is.
Well, we
So,
really
thank you.
appreciate all the support that you give the tobacco prevention program in the state of Florida. And we have these SWAT students all over in every county, and we really appreciate everything you're doing. I'm going to give you just a little.
And I just want to say thank you for being involved so early in your life, and continue to fight the good fight for good causes. And I am very impressed by your presentations here today. So thank you very much for joining.
And one other comment, Kayla, if you guys, there is a smoking bill that we have. It's that I sponsored. It's Senate Bill 562 and Senate Bill 994. You may want to keep track of that this legislative session and do some social media and Facebook and just follow it. So that would be a good project for your students to do in your school as well as the other schools throughout the state of Florida.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Dr. Ida Miller with the Indian River County Education Association. Good morning.
Thank you for having me. I just wanted to say, wow, I love that you guys do that. Keep up the good work. Excellent. Okay, thank you for having me. Good morning, delegation members. My name is Dr. Ida Miller, and I'm here today with the IRCEA Union. I'm the director of grades 6 through 8 within the union. For the school district of Indian River County, I am an intensive reading teacher for grade 6 at Storm Grove Middle School. I have been a resource specialist, language arts teacher, and now intensive reading. I have been in this county as a school district employee for 15 years. In Indian River County, Florida, the IRCEA represents 744 teachers. As educators, we are deeply committed to the success of every student. Students are the center of everything we do on a daily basis. We believe that there are 5 things that must be addressed in the coming session that would help us provide the education and service our students deserve and need. Number 1, ensure adequate funding for students. Florida ranks 41st in the nation per pupil spending. If we're serious about every child's future, let's get serious about doing what works. This means funding all schools so students have one-to-one instruction, inviting classrooms, and a well-rounded curriculum that all takes adequate funding, takes money. Let's teachers teach. When given the resources, opportunity, and training, educators can help every child unlock their full potential. And as of right now, so you know, teachers can't teach as they need to. They're mandated to do certain things. Reduce time spent on testing. That's a big one. Out-of-control testing in Florida cheats our students of valuable instruction time. With more time spent on learning rather than preparing for high-stakes tests, we will inspire students' natural curiosity to learn. Students will have more time to learn critical thinking and problem-solving skills needed daily and in the classrooms. A well-rounded education that includes history, arts, PE, and music encourages our students' creativity and the joy of learning. Those are things we have been losing due to increased dependence on test scores to determine everything from whether or not a student will graduate or teacher pay to closing a school. A main thing that I want to stress is that class size amendments need to be restored even in electives. Florida voters have repeatedly said that they want class size. They want a small class size. Large classes allow students to slip through the cracks and drop out or graduate unprepared or not graduate. Smaller class size helps ensure the specialized attention that parents want for their children, assure a living wage for education staff professionals. Teachers and education staff professionals deserve a salary rather than bonuses that reflect a living wage. Just a little bit more. Okay. We must also address the problems with HB 7069, which are many. There were certainly a few things in the bill we liked, including some small changes to the high-stakes testing, allowing school boards to determine how best to evaluate teachers and recognizing that school districts in Florida need additional resources to address the needs of our most vulnerable students. But the majority of HB 7069 will ultimately do more harm than good. We encourage you to finish the work of meaningful testing reform started last session. You have heard from parents and teachers that high-stakes testing is robbing our students of instruction time and the well-rounded education they need. We need to move back to the testing window on all students' assessments, giving teachers and students back valuable learning time, allowing school districts the ability to determine and evaluate student growth, and eliminate the 9th grade FSA and all end-of-course exams except algebra and biology.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. Could
Okay,
you please bring your comments to, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we will hear, did you have any questions? Next, we will hear from West Wabasso Progressive Civic Club, Ardra Rigby. Okay, we will come back to him. So we will move to Artie Olson of Marine Industries Association of the Treasure Coast. Welcome.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak before you today. My name is Artie Olson. I'm representing the Marine Industries Association of the Treasure Coast. The MIATC is a not-for-profit trade association composed of members in Martin, St. Lucie, Indian River, and Okeechobee counties. We're dedicated to the promotion of pleasure boating and its related industries through education of our members and the boating public. Today, I'd like to begin by saying thank you to each of you for supporting important issues to our membership last legislative session. Boating safety is very important. We appreciate Senate President Negron and Representative Magar for their diligence on the vessel registration and EPIRB bill last session. We also appreciate all the support from our delegation for this good law. Secondly, again, we appreciate your diligence for including derelict vessel funding and the 17-18 Appropriations Act last year. We hope you will continue to fund the derelict vessel removal program again this year. Last session, the line item was funded at almost $1.5 million from the Marine Resources Conservation Trust Fund. Our main funding requests this year are two: increased funding for the Florida Boating Improvement Program and increased monies for the Derelict Vessel Removal Program again. We respectfully request your consideration for both of these programs. Legislatively, we are still collecting information on many marine businesses in the state. One issue we continue to hear is the need to allow individuals and businesses the ability to build the docks that were destroyed by the storms. It would be helpful if these people were allowed to build within the existing footprint without having to go through permitting processes. Finally, we're always here to be a resource to you on all boating issues in Tallahassee. We anticipate this year will be very busy again, and in regards to proposed legislation on boating and boating-related activities. Always feel free to give us a shout, contact us if you ever have any questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, I just have one question. Some of my experience on derelict boats is more of the process than the funding. I know funding's an issue, and I've been fighting to get funding for the derelict boats, and finally we got some in there. But can you afterwards, can you just let me know where the problems are in the process of getting the derelict boats out of the water? I know we don't have time right now.
We definitely like the process streamlined.
Okay.
Funding is great, but streamlining the process would be important too.
Great. If you could get with my staff and get
Sure.
us some information on your recommendations on how we can streamline that better, that would be great.
Be sure to follow up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we will hear from John and Jerry Rorick with the Women's Care Center of Indian River County. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for allowing us to come today. We are from Women's Care Center, and we just wanted to raise your awareness, make sure that you know that we are here in this county and that we are loving and serving women every single day. At this point, we're averaging 15 services every single day. Last year and the year before, we averaged between 600 and 700 new clients every single year. When we first opened, we did not know if there was really a need in this county. Many people told us there was not, but we found on day one that that is not true. So, Indian River County averages around 1,100 births every single year. And if you look at our new clients every year, which is 600 to 700, you can see that we are touching many of the births and that they come to us first. Our model is very important. Our model is, it's just the perfect model. There's no judgment. We do not proselytize. And that brings me to the real reason that we're here today. We wanted to talk to you about the Florida Pregnancy Care Network, which is what we are a member of. And the leadership of this agency is amazing. They are extremely professional. There is no gray area with them. So there's no problem with proselytizing, and we wanted to make sure that you understand that. I recently watched some of the hearings in Tallahassee, and I heard testimony from women who said that that indeed was their experience when they went into pregnancy care centers. And I want you to understand, in order to be a member of the Florida Pregnancy Care Network, we have very stringent values and rules, I guess, that we have to follow. And if you do not follow them, you are not a member of the Florida Pregnancy Care Network. So anything that is voted upon concerning the Florida Pregnancy Care Network is totally, they audit us a couple of times a year. Every single month, they look at our reports, and it is, like I said, there is no gray area. So the other thing we wanted to do today is draw your attention to a brand new program that came out of that network, and it's called the Women's Wellness Program, and this is huge. This covers women in our county who have no insurance at all. And I can tell you from seeing women every single day in this county, there are so many women who do not have health care insurance and are going without. So this program allows for a free annual checkup and a follow-up appointment. And everything is completely free. And this really is showing the women of Florida that they are truly valued, and that health care that most of us take for granted is also available to them, and it's at no cost. So we are right now trying to help get the word out on that, and your passage of the House Bill 41 will help that foundation and ensure that we are here for many years to come.
Thank you very much for your comments today. I appreciate that. Any questions, Senator Mayfield?
Yeah, no, there's also a Senate bill companion, I believe, that Senator Bean has.
There is, and I really urge you to support those. And I would also invite you to, anytime, stop in at Women's Care Center. It's hard to explain how we do things without that personal tour. And I would love to educate you on our model and how we truly value and love women.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here today. Next, we will hear from Treasure Coast Food Bank, Judith Cruz. Okay. Then we will hear from the Democrats of Indian River County, Democratic Executive Committee, Adriana DeCanter. Welcome.
Good morning, Representative Grawl and Senator Mayfield. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come before you and talk to you about issues that are important to the Democratic Party. I also am thankful that the two members of the Commissioner's staff are still here, so I appreciate that we have some people who are really listening to the people in the community. My name is Adriana DeCanter, and I am Vice Chair of the Democratic Executive Committee in Indian River County. Our county and state Democratic parties have passed resolutions supporting a constitutional amendment to reinstate 1.5 million convicted Florida felons' right to vote and other civil rights. Florida is only one of 3 states in the country, along with Iowa and Kentucky, that permanently rescinds the right to vote for citizens with felony convictions. And if the amendment passes, Senator Perry Thurston of Fort Lauderdale will file an implementing bill that would restore all civil rights to ex-felons except the right to own a handgun. I'd like to read to you the Florida Democratic Party's resolution, which is entitled Ending Felon Disenfranchisement in Florida. Whereas Florida disenfranchises more than 10% of its voting age population and more than 20% of its African American voting population, this injustice is not a representation of the party's platform and ultimately deprives more than 1.5 million Floridians. Florida remains as one of a few states to permanently disenfranchise returning citizens unless they receive clemency. Whereas the majority of our country is in favor of restoring endowed rights to felons, and the American Probation and Parole Association is in favor of ending felon disenfranchisement rights. FDP supports restoring these rights post-sentence and facilitating the rehabilitation and reintegration of returning citizens into their communities. Therefore, be it resolved, the Florida Democratic Party supports the automatic restoration of voting rights to Floridians with felony convictions after they have completed all terms of their sentence. In the last legislative session, 2 bills and a joint resolution were submitted on the topic, Senate Bill 934, House Bill 53, and Senate Joint Resolution 270. In 2018, it will be necessary to reintroduce the Restoration of Civil Rights Act, providing for automatic restoration of a former felon's civil rights, other than the right to own, possess, or use firearms after completion of his or her sentence of incarceration and conditions of supervision, requiring the Secretary of State to develop and implement a program to educate the public about the civil rights of people who have felony convictions. And my understanding is that the number of signatures in support of the petition to reinstate felony rights as a ballot issue is over the $700,000 mark that was required, although we're continuing to gather signatures. So thank you for listening to what the Democratic Party has to say on supporting felony rights. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here. Okay. It appears that we have somebody who just arrived from the Treasure Coast Food Bank. Okay. Welcome.
Thank you, and my apologies for being late. Our CEO, Judith Cruz, was supposed to be here, but she is under the weather, so she has asked me to come. So thank you very much for giving us some time to talk to you a little bit about our appropriation request. This is a request that we had put in last year as well, but we're hoping to have some more success this year with it. Our Florida Agriculture and Nourishment Collaborative is a project that will create jobs in our community. It will create new revenue streams for our local farmers by purchasing fresh fruits and vegetables from them. It'll provide culinary training to people that are looking to get into the culinary field. And it will also allow us to prepare meals for people that are in need in our community and provide those meals to a variety of different places, such as soup kitchens and food pantries, but also Meals on Wheels programs, be able to work with schools for their Farm to School program, and really open up the ability for us to prepare healthy, fresh meals for people at a much lower cost than people that are currently providing them right now, which would allow them to really not have as much of a waiting list that a lot of these programs have. So we are looking for an appropriation during this legislative session to provide, pay for the equipment that would go in the kitchen. We have kettle cookers, we have chill blasters, cryovac machines, all sorts of different equipment in order to prepare meals, freeze meals in bulk or in smaller portions if they're going out to a family, and also some capital improvements to our facility in order to be able to make this operation as efficient as possible. So we're looking for support from you when this comes up during the legislative session. We are lucky enough to have Representative Larry Lee as our House sponsor and also lucky enough to have Senator Mayfield as our Senate sponsor. So we're really hoping that with maybe a little bit more information from us this year about what we're doing over there and how we're trying to help people, that this is something that the state will see as a priority. We anticipate providing at least 25 million pounds of food to people during the first full year of operation, and for that to expand exponentially throughout the years as it operates. We're looking to get support from the state so that everything that we have out there in terms of contracts can go right back into the facility and keep it up and running. And we are hoping to really expand this beyond Indian River County, beyond the Treasure Coast, and really be a resource to the entire state. Anybody that wants to do a farm to school program with their school but don't have the capacity to process on their own, they would come to us and we would be the person processing all of that food for their kitchens so that they don't have to send it out of state the way that they do right now. Right now there's no processing facility in the state of Florida, so anybody that wants to do those kinds of things has to go out of state, has to come back out, and it costs a lot more money than it really should. So that's what we're trying to do in the community, and we're hoping that we'll have your support this year for the for our appropriation. I did bring some additional materials to leave behind for you guys as well. So thank you very much for your time, and I don't know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer any of them.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Next, we will hear from Paul Nigro with the Guardian Ad Litem program. Welcome. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak with you this morning. Let me begin by thanking all of you for your continued support of the Guardian Ad Litem program statewide, our volunteers, and for the children and families that we serve. The Guardian Ad Litem program is tasked for advocating for the best interests of children who have been abused, abandoned, and neglected, and who have come under the supervision of the Department of Children and Families and the court systems. The Guardian Ad Litem program, we use a team-based model consisting of a program attorney, a volunteer child advocate, and a staff supervisor who look out for their safety and advocate for their best interest and well-being. We provide recommendations to the court and strive to give each child a voice in what happens to them. This year, I want to talk to you about the two budget requests that the Guardian Ad Litem program statewide is presenting. The first request is related to the increasing number of children in care in an attempt to support an evidence-based solution to move children ages 0 to 3 more quickly through the system with better advocacy and better outcomes. You may already be familiar with early childhood courts, or baby courts are often called. We don't have a dedicated ECC in Circuit 19 yet, but there is growing support to try to bring such a program here. Hopefully that will be in the near future. In ECC, specially trained teams focus resources and intense oversight on very young children. Baby courts have demonstrated positive outcomes where they are utilized in the state. Almost 2/3 of children served by the Safe Babies court teams found permanent homes with members of their families, compared to only 1/3 of infants and toddlers in the general foster care system. The Guardian Ad Litem program has a crucial role to play on these teams, and so we're requesting your support and funding positions to take on those challenges. And our second request addresses Guardian representation for the increasing number of children in out-of-home care as well. As of June 2017, DCF data showed nearly 20% of children who were in out-of-home care were placed outside of their home circuit. Here in Circuit 19, we have approximately 115 of our children who are placed outside of Circuit 19, so outside of the Treasure Coast and Okeechobee area. And advocating and representing those children can be difficult because of the distance involved. The Guardian Ad Litem program is requesting funds to assist volunteers in representing this significant portion of our children by establishing a program to assist volunteers in events where extraordinary travel is required or where extensive travel would present a financial hardship to our volunteer. Many of our volunteers are retired or they live and rely on fixed incomes. And we find that we achieve the best outcomes for our children when we have a consistent guardian throughout the life of the child's case. Unfortunately, there are a lot of times where many of our volunteers are forced to choose between incurring a significant financial hardship or continuing to advocate for their children to the best of their abilities. So this funding would allow us to provide better, more consistent representation for our children regardless of where they reside in the state of Florida. I'm glad to answer any questions you may have, but otherwise on behalf of our program, myself, our 10,000 volunteers statewide, and 350 here in the Treasure Coast and Okeechobee, I want to thank you all for your continued support and all that you do for our children.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Christina Kaiser with Devereaux Community-Based Care.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Christina Kaiser with Devereaux Community-Based Care. And we're here today to add our voice to that of the Florida Coalition for Children and the child welfare providers throughout the state of Florida concerned about the sunsetting of the Title IV waiver. We know the waiver is federal. We know it's a federal issue, but the impact is going to be tremendously local. Early projections estimate that the state of Florida is going to lose about $50 million. In our community alone, in Circuit 19, we stand to lose the great majority of our funding for in-home services. And these are services that for 10 years have kept children safe in their homes instead of licensed foster care. So they're proven services and they've been effective services and they've been keeping kids home and again, out of foster care. We have resigned ourselves to the fact that the waiver is going away, but we really need to be prepared for the gigantic gaping hole that it's going to create. So we would also ask you to support and approve the Department of Children and Families $41 million budget request for core services to child welfare. It's a lot, but we're about to lose a lot. And finally, in the interest of keeping that financial hole as small as possible, we ask you once again to please keep APD, Agency for Persons with Disability, resources on your radar, and to support policies that strengthen the agency's ability to assume financial responsibility for eligible children. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Concerned Veterans for America, Diego Echeverry. Okay. Pelican Island Audubon Society, Graham Cox. Welcome, Mr. Cox. Good morning.
Good morning. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you both and to your staff. Forgive me, I'm now in the 11th day of a cold that I was assured would be gone in 5 days, and it's not happened. I will leave for you, so that I don't violate the 3-minute rule, I'll leave for you the more extensive comments that we have, and a copy of our Telegram newsletter, which we provided initially to your staff, but we've got a color version of it here, which also includes information about a conference we will be hosting in mid-January dealing with planting native vegetation that will contribute to cleaning up the Indian River Lagoon. I want to deal with 3 things very quickly. One, dealing with the Florida Forever funding and the support for robust funding for the Florida Forever, and funding for the reservoir south of Lake Okeechobee. The Florida legislature has already a successful passage of the Legacy Florida Act in 2016 and Senate Bill 10 in 2000. We must continue to follow through on commitments to restoring America's Everglades. Audubon supports the Florida Department of Environmental Protection's legislative budget request that seeks $305 million in Everglades funding. It's the largest single request ever. A little while ago, just weeks ago, one of our staff members in Audubon, Florida, met with Secretary Zinke, Interior Secretary Zinke. He assured Audubon of his and the administration's commitment to advancing the comprehensive Everglades restoration plan, which came as good news to us, knowing what's going on with the federal government right now, that they at least say that they're behind the project that we've had on the books for so long. The second thing I want to deal with is a delegation. We're asking you to oppose bills that would preempt local government from having their own tree ordinances. Turns out that we have a couple of bills in the legislature, Senate Bill 574 and House Bill 521, that will prohibit cities and counties from protecting trees with local tree ordinances. And we find this ironic in a home rule state as we are, telling local governments that they can't protect their own trees. And they would. So we're going to follow those bills, and we'll keep you posted if you don't follow. We will, to make sure they don't happen. Vero Beach is a tree city USA, and without their ability to pass their own ordinance, they wouldn't have that kind of designation, and we appreciate it. Third item was the Indian River Lagoon. It's quite clear from all the scientific evidence observations that it's a lagoon in crisis, and we want to make sure that it gets whatever appropriations and funding are necessary to deal with the issues. And the third item, as I said, is the conference that we're going to run in January, and we hope you will be able to find time to come to that and listen to presentations on Florida native landscapes and living landscapes. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cox, for being here today. We next hear from Megan Hoots, President, Florida Young Democrats of Indian River. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Senator Mayfield and Representative Grall. My name is Megan Hoots, and I am before you today as the president of the Florida Young Democrats of Indian River and co-founder of Save the Sea, Go Plastic Free, to stress the importance of banning single-use plastic bags in the state of Florida. Plastic pollution is a global issue, and Florida should be at the forefront of the solution. I implore our state legislators to take meaningful action that encourages reusable, recyclable, or compostable alternatives in lieu of single-use plastic bags. Plastic pollution, specifically from plastic bags, harms our fragile and unique environment, as well as the public health, safety, and welfare of residents, visitors, and future generations. Here are a few statistics from the Center for Biological Diversity. Americans use 100 billion plastic bags a year, with the average family consuming almost 1,500 plastic bags annually. Only 1% of those plastic bags are returned for recycling. Furthermore, 100,000 marine animals are killed by plastic bags yearly. It takes an astounding 500 or more years for a plastic bag to degrade in a landfill. Please note, plastic bags never completely degrade. They break down into microplastics that absorb toxins and continue to pollute the environment by entering our food chain. Recent studies are finding microplastics in shellfish, such as oysters, which makes our way onto our dinner plates and ultimately into our bloodstreams. Now, I could go on with more horrific facts about the harmful effects of plastics, but instead would like to outline legislation on the issue. In 2008, lawmakers passed a bill requiring the Department of Environmental Protection, the DEP, to analyze the need for statewide regulations on auxiliary containers, wrappings, and disposable carry-out bags based on environmental hazards. The legislature was given the report in 2010, and yet none of the recommendations contained in the report have been adopted. Until the legislature adopts the recommendations, local governments are unable to regulate these materials. Recently, 2 bills were introduced in 2016-2017 in the Florida House and Senate, SB 162 and HB 93, that would let coastal communities of less than 100,000 people to temporarily ban plastic bags during a 2-year pilot program. However, both bills died in committee. Ultimately, the Florida Retail Federation and the Florida Petroleum Marketers and Convenience Store Association have been a forceful voice of opposition and successfully lobbied against the 2 bills. Now, admittedly, implementing a statewide ban will not be easy, but Florida has too much at stake to ignore this environmental hazard any longer. We can follow the lead of California, Hawaii, and DC, who have effectively banned single-use plastic bags. Florida must join the ranks of Delaware, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and Illinois, who all have pending legislation to significantly reduce single-use plastic bags. Therefore, in closing, I ask that you go to Tallahassee and work to ban single-use plastic bags in the state of Florida. We must implement measures to safeguard our state's future as an ecological gem and lead this fight for the environment. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for your comments. Next, we'll hear from Lainey Frame with the Democratic Women's Club of Indian River County. Good morning.
Hi. Good morning, Representative Grau and Senator Mayfield. My name is Lainey Frame, and I am accompanied today by members of the Democratic Women's Club of Indian River County. We are here to voice our concerns and seek your support for gun safety legislation during the upcoming session. In June of last year, the tragedy at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando gave our state the distinction of having the nation's highest death rate from a mass murder by guns. The loss of 49 lives was partially due to lax gun laws that permit the purchase and ownership of automatic assault weapons, the purpose of which is to kill many people quickly. Sadly, I am here before you just a month after the now deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history, which occurred in Las Vegas, where 58 concertgoers were killed and more than 500 were injured as a lone gunman sprayed bullets in a 10-minute burst of gunfire from modified semi-automatic rifles. Among the details noted in the Las Vegas massacre was a way to alter a rifle to make it fire like an automatic weapon. Using what is known as a bump stock, the shooter modified his semi-automatic rifles so they mimicked the rapid fire of an automatic weapon. And these bump stocks are readily available. You can purchase them on the internet. Gun violence has become an epidemic in our country, with mass murders defining so many American sites, including Columbine, Virginia Tech, San Bernardino, Charleston, Washington, D.C., Sandy Hook, Pulse, Las Vegas, and just this month, the tiny Texas town of Sutherland Springs. We can no longer continue to ignore gun safety issues. A bill has been filed in the Florida legislature that, without violating the Second Amendment rights of our citizens, offers common sense gun control. I ask you to consider House Bill 219, submitted by Representative Carlos Smith, which seeks to prohibit the sale, transfer, or possession of assault weapons or large capacity ammunition magazines. Furthermore, the bill requires certificates of transfer, provides requirements for transportation of same, and provides for enhanced criminal penalties for certain offenses when committed with an assault weapon or a large capacity magazine. Additionally, Senate Bill 196, submitted by Senator Lyndon Stewart, follows the same language. There is simply no sane reason for any citizen to possess the types of weapons described in this proposed legislation. These are killing machines, leaving behind grieving families and outraged citizens who are demanding strong, sensible legislation to help stop these mass murders. I urge each of you to vote in favor of the bills filed by Representative Smith and Senator Stewart. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you for being here today. Next, we will hear from Dr. Edie Witter with the Ocean Research and Conservation Association. Good morning, Dr. Witter.
Good morning, Senator Mayfield, Representative Grahl. Yes, I'm Dr. Edie Witter. I'm CEO and Senior Scientist of the Ocean Research and Conservation Association. I want to thank you for your continued support of our water quality monitoring program in the Indian River Lagoon. The Kilroy water quality monitors that we've been using have been installed as of 2014. We've had as many as 25 between Martin County and Volusia County. These systems are small enough and easy enough to install that we've been able to install them into all of the major inlets and canals and tributaries feeding into the lagoon, which means we can focus on where the biggest problems are. It's critical to identify the sources of pollution entering the lagoon. And we've been able to do this to a very high degree. So you have graphs that we provided you with that shows you the annual input to these different inlets along the lagoon for different pollutants, nitrogen and phosphate, as well as the blue-green algae, so that you can see where the biggest problems are entering the lagoon, and we can focus our mitigation efforts. Everybody understands how you protect land. You buy it. You can't buy water. The only way to protect it is to monitor it. Otherwise, we have no idea what's being put into it. We've already had numerous successes with these units in terms of discovering issues that were previously unknown. We've also seen things like we saw a big pulse of fresh water come into Willoughby Creek this past year, and when we notified Martin County, they determined that the fairgrounds had dumped a big load of fresh water which had some pollutants in it. And we're doing the same thing with a phosphate pulse that we saw come in as a slug up in Brevard County. We've monitored fish kills, we've been monitoring the algae blooms and figuring out a lot to do with the mitigating factors. Our focus is on solutions. We have no interest in doing science for science sake. We're just trying to do the science that we need to do in order to be able to focus our efforts. Based on our pollution mapping, we've come to realize to what a high degree living shorelines actually do make a difference, and as a result of that, we have a marvelous program that's being funded by Indian River County Impact 100 and is actually getting a lot of support from others now, where we're working with local Indian River County schools. The kids are growing plants that we're going to plant at living shorelines that are owned by the Indian River Land Trust. So that's proved to be a very powerful collaboration. We want to thank Senator Mayfield for S786 and the companion bill to Representative Harrell's HB 339. We're asking us to be able, with our continued funding, to keep We now have 10 Kilroys. We had to cut back because of the reduction in funding. 8 of those are supported with the state money. We've gotten funding from St. Lucie and Martin County for 3 more. So we're not seeking additional funding this year, but just continued funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for being here, Dr. Witter. That concludes the business and nonprofit presentations. I do have one speaking card before me, and that is from Terso Moreno with the Farm Workers Association of Florida. Welcome, Mr. Moreno.
Thank you very much, members of the delegation. The first thing that I want to bring up to you is the need to find protections for people who work outdoors. Farm workers, as well as other workers that work outside, are getting sick, and we have some deaths related to being exposed to the higher heat we have with the global warming. And the workers do not have any protections. That's up to the employers. And they're getting sick, getting short-term effects on their bodies, as well as long-term effects affecting their organs, their systems. And we do need protections for them. Other states has made changes on legislation to protect the workers, and we had not done nothing yet to protect our people who work outdoors. The second thing is related to a public safety matter that it's affecting all of us in Florida. More than 10 states in the U.S. has changed the laws so immigrants can have access to a driver's license. Many of the immigrants have U.S. children, and they have to find transportation to look for the basic needs of their families. It will be better if they have access to a driver's license. That's a public safety matter for all of us. They don't have a driver's license, they're driving anyway for need. So it's about time for Florida to also look at possibility to change laws as other states have done, for good for all of us. And the other things are related to also to the immigrants. There are 2 bills that are being moved in committees. One of them already passed, that is criminalizing the immigrants. I already said that immigrants are the parents of children that are working here to support their families. What's happening is we're criminalizing them, and they're going to be deported. Children are going to stay here, or they're going to leave and they're going to come back. We're affecting the families of the immigrants who also here to contribute to our economy, and they're not doing anything wrong other than working to support their families. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. At this time, I would like to nominate Senator Mayfield to chair the 2019 delegation, and I would like to see if she has any objections to that.
Yes, I accept.
And if you would accept me, I'd be honored to serve as your vice chair.
I accept.
So hearing no objections, Senator...
Someone in the audience that wants to do it. You gotta...
Senator Mayfield will serve as the chair of the delegation in the upcoming year, and I will serve as the vice chair. Having no further business, Vice Chair, our incoming Chair Mayfield, has motioned for adjournment. We are adjourned. Thank you for coming, everybody.